Hello all, this is my presentation on periodization for program design in sports performance training. This will be a cursory review of the concept rather than a comprehensive discussion, as periodization is a large concept with many different facets. To introduce, the periodization that will be discussed here is based on the NASM Optimum Performance Training, or OPT model, which is a form of block periodization. There are other models of periodization as well, but that is the one discussed here. Some key concepts with periodization to keep in mind are stimulus fatigue, which is the idea that athletes will respond less and less to a particular stimulus over time, meaning that while we are still applying stress, we're no longer seeing adaptations, meaning that they need a new stimulus. Residual training effects refers to the fact that certain training adaptations, such as strength, hypertrophy, etc., can remain even when not trained. And so given that fact, we can limit how much stress we're placing on an athlete and have an athlete peak in several different adaptations at one time without training all of those adaptations simultaneously. Cumulative training effects is another concept in which one adaptation helps support performance in another. For instance, performing stabilization training before maximum strength training helps improve the expression of maximum strength due to the stability adaptations that were achieved in the prior mesocycle. And integrated periodization is a new concept in sports performance training, which seeks to plan not just the physical and exercise training that an athlete does, but purposefully plan all aspects of athletic performance. That includes skills training, team tactical training, recovery, and psychological skills training. So the first stage in the OPT model is stabilization. An exercise example for this would be a suspension trainer or TRX push-up. The progression focus in this particular stage is on increasing the stabilization and proprioception demands rather than on increasing the load. The next stage is strength with three different phases: strength endurance, hypertrophy, and maximum strength. An exercise example with the same movement pattern as the TRX push-up is the bench press, but because the bench press can be loaded more heavily, it allows us to focus on one of the primary progression focuses of the strength stage, which is increasing the load. The next stage is power. An example here of an exercise which also mimics the movement patterns previously described is the medicine ball chest pass. Here we're focused on increasing velocity and or increasing the load, but we want to be moving the load much faster in this particular stage than in the strength phase. When considering how to periodize for the competitive season, it's important to keep in mind that team sport athletes need to peak for multiple competitions, while some athletes, such as, for example, an Olympic track sprinter, may be on a 4-year cycle where they are peaking for the Olympic Games with several minor peaks for qualifiers. Team sport athletes may need to peak every single week in order to stay in contention for championships at the end of the year. It's also important for coaches to monitor cumulative stress from things like practice, games, travel, life, such as school and relationships, as the stress that we're placing on athletes in the weight room is only one aspect of the stress they are experiencing in their lives. Some models that have been proposed are undulating periodization, in which all stages of the OPT model, such as stabilization, strength, and power, are trained during one microcycle, as well as velocity-based training, in which the speed of the bar is used to prescribe load rather than a percentage of maximum. Velocity-based training has been shown to produce similar improvements in strength and jump height compared to percentage-based training, but with much less volume. And this is important because it means that we can achieve adaptations with less fatigue and without need for 1-rep max testing. It's also been shown that DUP and block periodization can produce similar results. DUP may produce better velocity in handball players in their throwing capacity, in the throwing velocity of handball players. It's also been suggested that coaches may want to switch from a DUP to a block periodization model or vice versa in order to provide a novel stimulus for their athletes and prevent plateaus. What this means is that there is no one single periodization model that is necessarily best. It's about choosing the right model for your athletes at that time. However, I do think that the velocity-based training model for those coaches who have the resources is valuable because it allows for much less, it allows for changes in an athlete's maximum capacity, which may not be accounted for in percentage-based training. And here are my references. Thanks for watching.